evangelicals working to see the theoretical Christian view that all people are essentially equal made more of a practical reality. Freedom of expression within the Western world also helped in enabling opportunity to express their position. Prominent among these abolitionists was parliamentarian William Wilberforce in England, who wrote in his diary when he was 28 that God Almighty has set before me two great objects, the suppression of the slave trade and reformation of morals. With others he labored, despite determined opposition, to finally abolish the slave trade. The famous English preacher Charles Spurgeon had some of his sermons burned in America due to his censure of slavery, calling it the foulest blot, and which may have to be washed out in blood. Methodist founder John Wesley denounced human bondage as the sum of all villainies, and detailed its abuses. In Georgia, primitive Methodists united with brethren elsewhere in condemning slavery. Many evangelical leaders in the United States, such as Presbyterian Charles Finney and Theodore Weld, and women such as Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was the daughter of abolitionist Lyman Beecher, and Sojourner Truth motivated hearers to support abolition. Finney preached that slavery was a moral sin, and so supported its elimination. Quakers who belonged to the Religious Society of Friends, a historically Protestant Christian set of denominations, were early leaders in abolitionism. In 1688, Dutch Quakers in Germantown, Pennsylvania, sent an anti-slavery petition to the monthly meeting of Quakers. By 1727, British Quakers had expressed their official disapproval of the slave trade. Three Quaker abolitionists, Benjamin Lay, John Woolman, and Anthony Benezet, devoted their lives to the abolitionist effort from the 1730s to the 1760s, with Lay founding the Negro School in 1770, which would serve more than 250 pupils. In June 1783, a petition from the London Yearly Meeting and signed by over 300 Quakers was presented to Parliament protesting the slave trade. In 1787, the Society for Effecting the Abolition of the Slave Trade was formed, with 9 of the 12 founder members being Quakers. During the same year, William Wilberforce was persuaded to take up their cause. As a member of Parliament of the United Kingdom, Wilberforce was able to introduce a bill to abolish the slave trade. Wilberforce first attempted to abolish the trade in 1791, but could only muster half the necessary votes. However, after transferring his support to the Whigs, it became an election issue. Abolitionist pressure had changed popular opinion, and in the 1806 election, enough abolitionists entered Parliament for Wilberforce to be able to see the passing of the Slave Trade Act of 1807. The Royal Navy subsequently declared that the slave trade was equal to piracy, with the West Africa Squadron choosing to seize ships involved in the transfer of slaves and liberate the slaves on board, effectively crippling the transatlantic trade. Through abolitionist efforts, popular opinion continued to mount against slavery, and in 1833, slavery itself was outlawed throughout the British Empire. In the United States, the abolition movement faced much opposition. A postal campaign in 1835 by the American Anti-Slavery Society, or AASS, founded by African-American Presbyterian clergyman Theodore S. Wright, sent bundles of tracts and newspapers to prominent clerical, legal, and political figures throughout the whole country, and culminated in massive demonstrations throughout the North and South. In attempting to stop these mailings, New York Postmaster Samuel L. Gouverneur unsuccessfully requested the AASS to cease sending it to the South. He therefore decided that he would aid in preserving the public peace by refusing to allow the mails to carry abolition pamphlets to the South himself. This resulted in the AASS resorting to other and clandestine means of dissemination. Despite such determined opposition, many Methodist, Baptist, and Presbyterian members freed their slaves and sponsored black congregations, in which many black ministers encouraged slaves to believe that freedom could be gained during their lifetime. After a great revival occurred in 1801 at Cane Ridge, Kentucky, American Methodists made anti-slavery sentiments a condition of church membership. Abolitionist writings such as A Condensed Anti-Slavery Bible Argument by George Bourne and God Against Slavery by George B. Cheever used the Bible, logic, and reason extensively in contending against the institution of slavery, and in particular the chattel form of it as seen in the South. Other Protestant missionaries of the Great Awakening initially opposed slavery in the South, but by the early decades of the 19th century, Many Baptist and Methodist preachers in the South had come to an accommodation with it in order to evangelize the farmers and workers. Disagreements between the newer way of thinking and the old often created schisms within denominations at the time. Differences in views toward slavery resulted in the Baptist and Methodist churches dividing into regional associations by the beginning of the Civil War. In the 1850 bull of canonization of Peter Claver, one of the most illustrious adversaries of slavery, Pope Pius IX branded the supreme villainy, summum nefas, of the slave traders. And in 1888, Pope Leo XIII condemned slavery in plurimis. For centuries, the Church's role in supporting and even justifying slavery and the slave trade has been a source of deep moral reflection and regret. However, as society has evolved and our understanding of human rights and justice has advanced, the Church has embarked on a journey of redemption, seeking to rectify past wrongs and contribute positively to the healing of racial wounds.